celebrating 48 years on the air. Award-winning Farmweek is a production of Mississippi State University Extension.
Today on Farm Week, the full story, a water weed in Mississippi some are calling a dangerous threat. In southern gardening, its name is Vermillionaire, but you could say it's the bee's knees. In the markets, a little bit of bullishness in row crops and cattle came along for the ride. And in our encore feature, a lifelong 4-H'er in Mississippi carrying on his family's legacy. Farm Week starts right now.
Hello everyone, I'm Zach Ashmore.
And I'm Mike Russell. Great to have you with us again here on Farm Week. Last week we ran a preview of the story you're about to see, a so-called water weed that from where it is on a private lake right now is considered to be a serious threat to downstream waters. You'll meet Extension Agent Jim McAdory, who made us aware of this threat. I ventured south to take a closer look. In Winston County, Mississippi, about an hour south of MSU in Starkville, the small town of Noxious. In this relaxed farming community, many of the town's 400 or so residents grow corn, soybeans, and hay. And some of them, like Jimmy Kemp, a civil engineer and former mayor of Meridian from 85 to 93, have lakes on their property. And that's where this story really begins. Delta 19 Drone Ops, Barrett Doherty's aerial application firm out of Greenwood, has been called here for a special mission to spray Kemp's 26-acre lake because it has something called giant salvinia, an aggressive water weed, for lack of a better term. Kemp says he's never seen anything like it.
In the 23 or 4 years that we've had it here, we've never had this problem before until this year. And I've never seen anything grow that fast, you know. It's a noxious weed, man, that nobody needs in the pond, lakes, and that sort of thing from what I've seen.
According to Buford Leslie, a project manager from Mississippi's Department of Wildlife, Fisheries, and Parks, giant salvinia is a federal and state listed noxious weed native to Brazil. He says Kemp's infestation is significant, not only because it could harm the lake, but because there's a potential impact on downstream public waterways. What's so bad about it?
So with giant salvinia, it is extremely rapid in reproduction. It is asexual or self-replicating. It can, about every 14 days, double in size. And with that, it is extremely difficult to control and mitigate. It's free-floating. And with that, similar to water hyacinth, it goes where the wind pushes it, so it can get into things like cut grass, backwater areas where it's difficult for us to get to treat. So when it becomes at this level in a body of water, what it's doing is it's shading out our primary production, our phytoplankton. With that, it's decreasing dissolved oxygen levels and increasing the risk of a fish kill. It's also limiting access. It doesn't have any toxins that I'm aware of. The issue would be rapid decomposition, say with a freeze event or a herbicide treatment. When that plant material starts to break down and decompose, that leads to oxygen demand and could also cause a fish kill.
Obviously, this is no ordinary weed. It's free-floating, not rooted, and forms these dense mats. The individual plants can break apart from each other and, because they're often wind-driven, move quickly and reproduce rapidly. If Barrett and his drone weren't called right away, the infestation could spread through the Pearl River system just a couple of miles away. Eventually, it could end up in Ross Barnett Reservoir near Jackson, the state capital. It could even spread all the way to the Gulf. Winston County Agent Jim McAdory works for MSU Extension. He's known Jimmy Kemp for years. The experts are here today because McAdory reacted quickly and posted the infestation on social media.
Jimmy is well up on pond management, lake management. He's been doing it a long time, and he knows more than the average bear on these sort of things. So I could see the concern in his eyes, and I said, Jimmy, I'll come look at it today. I'm still in the farm visiting business. I'll be there. I'll look at it. When I got down here, I saw it. I had to get my specialists involved in it, Dr. Wes Neal and Dr. Gray Turnage, because I knew it was serious, but I didn't know exactly how. Should we treat now, let the winter take it out? I wasn't up on it like I should. This was my first giant salvinia visit in my career. I've been working 25 years. So thank goodness, had to bring the big guns in on it. And made the Facebook post, which got a lot of attention from MDWFP, and they got in contact with me the very next day.
Buford Leslie says the most important thing with aquatic vegetation is proper ID, especially since complete eradication can be such a moving target, literally. He says this project was made possible by MSU Extension with technical assistance from Jim McAdory. He depends on agents like him.
As a fisheries biologist in the region, most of our regions are staffed by 3 biologists that cover multiple counties. The MSU Extension Service has agents in every county. They know their landowners, they work well with their landowners, and then they can see stuff that we might not necessarily see.
This stuff's tough. I've never seen anything like it. Now, of course, we've done a lot of research now, and Mississippi, y'all's Extension Service has helped us out a great deal with it too. And this drone, man, that's the way to go. If I was having to get in here with a boat and some kind of spray, and we spray the edge of it, but you just couldn't hardly spray all of this if you didn't have that drone doing it. I'm impressed.
Speaking of drone use, Barrett Doherty, a disciplined early adopter, says they're perfect for this kind of mission. He's getting many more calls from farmers these days.
I think there's just a ton of needs for this thing, or it's a tool that hits a lot of use cases. So irregular shaped crop fields, recreational land, things that big sprayers or airplanes can't do a good job in. That's kind of where this thing fits. And any little place that's hard to get into, and it just does a good job of, it's not like a boat where it's disrupting the water, it's just laying it right on top there.
Of course, one expert who understands intuitively just how valuable drones can be in this situation is Madison Dixon, Associate Director of MSU's brand new Ag Autonomy Institute. We talked to him on the phone after this mission was complete.
It's a bad aquatic weed, and if you're a boater or an angler or anybody who spends any time on Mississippi waterways, you've probably seen some signs that will notify you if giant salvinia is in the area, because it will attach itself to your boat. And if you go and pull your boat out of that waterway and take it into another waterway that's not currently suffering with giant salvinia, then you run the risk of transferring it to that water, and that's something that the state would really like you not to do. And so it's something that responsible boaters should try to avoid, but it's also something that the spray drones can really help in providing a tool to combat. And so to round things out on a positive note, yes, that's a giant problem, but Delta 19 and others that are leveraging spray drones to help in the mitigation and control of aquatic weeds like giant salvinia, that's just one, very, very good example of a way that this technology is being able to be used in a beneficial way.
We will follow up on this story, and next week you'll hear more from Madison Dixon of the MSU Ag Autonomy Institute and from Delta 19 drone pilot Barrett Doherty.
On the lighter side, in this week's Southern Gardening segment, a plant that's quite literally the bee's knees. Here with a flower that's popular with the pollinators is Extension horticulturalist Dr. Eddie Smith.
Today I'm in the trial garden at the MSU South Mississippi Branch Experiment Station in Poplarville, Mississippi, looking at some beautiful Vermillionaire plants. Vermillionaire, a Kupfia hybrid, is a captivating plant known for its abundant, striking blooms that bring a vivid burst of color to any garden. Each flower, a slender tube of brilliant orange red, creates an eye-catching display. Also known as firecracker plant, its flowers are not just visually appealing, they are magnets for pollinators, infusing the garden with life and movement. The plant itself has a neat, compact, and bushy growth habit. Its lush foliage is a deep, glossy green, providing a rich, contrasting backdrop that makes the fiery blooms stand out even more. Vermillionaire thrives in well-drained soil and basks in full sun, making it an ideal choice for gardeners seeking low-maintenance yet high-impact plants. It is remarkably resilient, with a long blooming season that extends from spring through fall. This hardy nature ensures a continuous display of color and a reliable food source for pollinators. Vermillionaire brings a tropical flair to any setting. Its vibrant flowers and lush green foliage create a stunning visual effect, making it a standout addition to gardens, patios, and landscapes. I'm Eddie Smith, and I will see you next time on Southern Gardening.
We'll take a break right here, but don't go away. Coming up on our Farm Week feature, a special episode of Extension Matters. It's a family affair. We again meet Jacob Turner, a lifelong 4-H'er in Greenville, Mississippi, carrying on his family's 4-H legacy. He shares all about the opportunities this youth organization can provide while teaching students valuable life skills and how to make the best better. Learn how he's making an impact on his community and demonstrating just how much extension matters. That's coming up. Here's this week's Farm Week calendar. Just one item coming up quickly: registration for Master Gardener online training. There are 3 different options, all self-paced and completely online. Keep in mind that registration closes September 12th. First option, the Master Gardener volunteer option. Cost $125. And through this training, you'll become a certified Master Gardener. You'll be trained in horticulture and related areas, and in exchange for this training, you're asked to volunteer your time to help county extension offices with horticulture projects that benefit the local community. The Master Gardener Volunteer Program is a great way to gain horticulture expertise at a low cost, meet other avid gardeners, share gardening experiences, get connected to the community, and belong to a well-respected educational organization. Option 2, the Home Gardening Course, cost $200. It's a fantastic way to get in-depth horticultural training without having to become a Master Gardener volunteer. Watch 11 videos with MSU Extension experts covering everything related to gardening and landscape installation and management. Take the classes at your own pace and then print off a certificate for your records. And finally, Option 3, individual classes at $25 a piece, available year-round. Learn everything from botany to plant diseases to entomology, ornamentals, honeybee care, tree care, and a lot more. The first 2 options, the Master Gardener Volunteer option and the Home Gardening Course, open on October 1st and must be completed by December 2nd, at your own pace, completely online. To register for any of these options, visit online at msuext.ms/mg. Brought to you by Mississippi State University Extension. And that's this week's Farm Week calendar. Time for the market report. Prices looking up.
A surprise, actually, especially in soybeans and corn, finally seeing some relief, some bullish relief. We'll talk about that and more. But first, the numbers. What were the week's biggest gains and losses? And then, row crop prices seeing some upswing. What's the reason for it, and will it last? And finally, we sit down with MSU livestock economist Josh Maples to get an idea of what the cattle markets look like. So, markets closed the week on the upswing, both row crops and livestock getting gains. Let's take a look. Last week's biggest gain, sugar, up over a cent, and over 5.5% increase from the previous week. The week's biggest loss, lumber, down 12.5 bucks, a near 2.5% decrease from the previous week. So the biggest story of the marketing week was the last-second rise of grains, namely soybeans and corn. This follows weeks of slow activity. So, what was the cause, and will it last? I took a closer look at the situation to find out.
Soybeans have seen the largest gain in futures prices since early July.
This follows nearly a month of losses, seeing the lowest Friday closing this year of $9.57 on August 16th. It's in stark contrast to prices just 3 months ago, when markets closed on about $12.50 on May 24th. So, what caused this turnaround and how long will it last? According to Carl Setzer from Consensus Ag Consulting, demand for U.S. commodities has grown over the past week, this appearing to stem from weather issues, namely drought, as we continue to transition from El Niño to La Niña. Mississippi has also seen some of these drought problems. Mr. Setzer added further, suggesting the dry conditions in South America have caused traders to consider potential lessening crops from Brazil next harvest season. In addition, soybean oil has been given a boost as an energy alternative from OPEC. Soy was not alone in these gains. Corn came along for the ride, seeing its prices rise for similar reasons. However, due to an abundance of stocks, it was more limited. Time will tell if ongoing weather issues cause these stocks to lessen.
This week in our cattle update, another look at last week's cattle on feed report released by the USDA. I spoke with Dr. Josh Maples from MSU Extension about the details and what exactly did this report tell us. He said there was more to the story than meets the eye.
Quite a bit to dig into on this one. The overall headlines that you typically see are, placements compared to last year's placements and overall inventories and marketings. The placements number was interesting. Placements compared to last year were up about 5 or 6%, which wasn't unexpected, but it did kind of stand out a little bit. One thing to consider is the placements during July last year were actually pretty low for the year, so we were comparing to a lower number. I really like to dig in looking at kind of averages across time because there's so much seasonal variation, and depending on what weather's doing, or especially drought is doing, you can see variation from month to month. If we look at the past 12 months, look at the averages of it, we have seen placements are down about 1 to 2% from where they were the previous 12 months. So you can kind of look at this longer term decline in placements, which should be expected given that we've had smaller calf crops the last couple of years. Meanwhile, the actual inventory of cattle sitting in feedlots, again, averaging across months rather than looking at the snapshot, we've seen that inventory in feedlots has remained relatively the same. So fewer cattle going in, even though we're seeing similar inventory numbers on average.
Well, how has that happened with inventories remaining relatively the same even though placements have declined?
Yeah, I think that's one of the really fascinating things about the current environment that we're in. So we know we have fewer calves hitting the ground. We've got fewer calves that are ultimately going to work their way into feedlots that are produced here in the U.S., but we're keeping cattle in feedlots longer. So we've seen this feeding periods stretch out longer because of what the market is doing or what the market is giving in terms of incentives. We've got relatively cheaper feed than we've had. You've got higher cost for feeder cattle coming into feedlots. And so what we've seen is fewer cattle coming into feedlots, but then they stay longer. And so these overall inventory numbers, they remain kind of elevated or at least not changed from a year ago or from the previous 12 months because they're staying longer. And that is also what's driven these higher dressed weights. We've seen cattle weights whenever they go to processing are much higher or have been much higher through a lot of this year than they were in the previous year. And so this is the market really adjusting, really kind of rationing out the supplies that we have. And we're seeing this play out through these feedlot data that we get each month.
Well, are we still seeing high amounts of heifers coming into the feedlots, or are we actually seeing cattle expansion happening?
Yeah, I don't think we're seeing expansion yet. And in this particular report, we can't dissect steers and heifers particularly, but we can look at other sources of data, and continue to see from the quarterly reports that we get. The next one we'll get will be the October 1. We'll show the split. Well, we're continuing to see a pretty high share of heifers on feed. Some of this could be from imports of heifers. So we bring in quite a few feeder cattle from Mexico, and those imports have more than doubled from last year. They're still not a huge percentage of the overall total, but they are higher, and a lot of those are heifers. So we're seeing some of that play out. But overall, I'm not seeing anything to suggest any widespread herd expansion just yet.
And that's it for a deeper look into the markets. Despite slight gain in grain prices, still on the lower side. Meanwhile, cattle the bullish markets right now. Mike?
Thanks, Zach. Up next, an encore presentation of our popular Extension Matters series. We meet a young man who builds on the enduring 4-H legacy of his family. Thanks to producer Brian Utley, here's a charming little story from Washington County, Mississippi. Meet Jacob Turner.
I feel as if 4-H makes you grow as a person, not only as a person, but as a whole community. 4-H can help build leadership skills, life skills, basically any skills that you want to learn that can get you through your day-to-day life. My name is Jacob Turner, and I'm from Washington County, and I've been in 4-H since I was 5 years old. It all started out with my great-grandmother, Margie Johnson, and once she got in 4-H, the whole family just started coming right behind her. It's just basically been like a legacy.
You're looking at my grandmother, Miss Margie Johnson, and my mom is Mamie Johnson, and I, Monica Turner, and Jacob Turner. And we've all been members of the Willing Workers 4-H Club. 4-H matters to my family because it has given my kids skills for leadership, life skills. It has given them confidence in the classroom, outside the classroom. So I am very grateful for 4-H.
It's an outlet that they can do, first of all, and they can learn new things. There are so many areas out there now that if you have an interest, they'll find a way for you to learn. You just have to make the first step, and they'll make the rest.
I feel like 4-H is very diverse, honestly, because I feel like if this person or that person didn't want to do that, you can always do this. And you never know what a person might like until they actually join 4-H. So I just feel like 4-H just has a wide variety of things for them to do.
Jacob Turner, I would consider him as a good kid. Some kids, you meet them, they just loud when they walk in the room and friendly, but Jacob is quiet and he's gonna wait till his turn. And when you talk to him, you'll say, this kid's talking beyond his years. He's got more wisdom than you would anticipate.
Get unstuck. I see myself growing by just learning how to put yourself out there, learning how to meet new people, learning how to just overall be a better person. And that's what I actually like about 4-H. Even though it seems like you're learning a lot of things, you're also having fun while doing it. And you really don't even know that you just learned a whole bunch of stuff.
I know he's grown in his being outspoken, because as I told you before, he was very reserved and quiet. Now he's that leader that we need in the county for the younger kids. And, you know, they all run up behind him. It's like the mother duck, the father duck, and the other ones, little ones running behind him. That's how it is. You'll see it tomorrow at the grilling contest. That's how it is. They just follow behind Jacob. He has so much patience and caring for those little ones.
Jacob will be going to college in a few years, and one of the first classes he's going to have to take his speech. So he's already above the rest of the crowd because he already knows how to speak in front of a crowd. He don't have to overcome that fear. Like I think he's gonna be a commentator, so I think he's gonna be able to speak well in front of people. You know, that's just my faith in him.
You're not proud of him, are you?
I am very proud of all my grands.
I'm very proud of him. The ambassador jacket means a great bit to him and his 4-H agent. You know, it was one of his things when they was coming up and they was young. He's like, we gotta get those green jackets back to Washington County. So Mr. Hines got them on the right path to being great leaders and young men and women in the county.
The 4-H agents that I work with are great teachers because they'll let you do it first, but they'll always be right there just in case you need somebody to fall back on. And if you need someone to just listen or just need someone to just help you, they're always there.
It's the simple motto of 4-H, make the best better. When we see kids, we see the best because there's so much potential in that kid to grow. And when they do these projects, then you're making them better and better and better, and they grow. And to see from sitting in the back or just watching to now being a leader in everything that he does is wonderful.
As a mom, that means I'm raising a nice young man on the right path to being a great citizen to the people in this world. So I'm very appreciative of 4-H in Mississippi, because if it had not been, then he could have been anywhere doing anything.
Extension matters to families. You can take a family and kids can do things by themselves, but in the end, they love to do things with their family. So 4-H gives kids the opportunity to do it yourself and say, I did it, and then also gives them opportunity to work with others and build a family, a friendship that'll last a lifetime.
Young Jacob Turner, a successful 4-H'er and wise beyond his years. Well, next week, rebuilding the American clothing industry.
In the early days, Americans made their own clothes. Then 150 years ago, the apparel industry boomed. But more recently, a severe slide and a low point with COVID. Now, are things turning around? We'll visit two companies where hope springs eternal, thanks to a resurgence in Mississippi's prized crop, cotton.
Putting our pants back on. That's next time on Farm Week.
Remember, if you missed a story, look for past episodes of Farm Week on our website at farmweek.tv.
And don't forget to follow us on Facebook and YouTube. We'll see you next week. Thanks for watching.